Television highlights of the news of yesteryear. All out, the fleet's in. It's June 1st, 1934, as Franklin Roosevelt reviews history's largest assembly of U.S. fighting ships. Fleet swarms into New York Harbor as President and his party watch from Captain's Bridge of Cruiser Indianapolis. With the chief executive are Mrs. Roosevelt, his daughter Mrs. Dall, his son James, and the President's mother. Leading the flotilla of battleships, the California fires salvo in salute to the Commander-in-Chief of America's Armed Forces. Breathtaking concentration of ships comprises 81 vessels, with crews totaling 35,000 officers and men. Its first review in New York waters since 1918, and this time, planes are added to the display of America's mastery of the seas. It takes fleet 2.5 hours to glide past review ship Indianapolis. And for 2.5 hours, former Undersecretary of Navy Roosevelt casts an appreciative eye over Armada of battle vessels second to none. Here's famous aircraft carrier Lexington, destined to play an important part in the Pacific battles of World War II, come to an heroic but tragic end. Reviewing ship is anchored just 2 miles off Ambrose Light, as parade of ships 12 miles long passes by and noses into the harbor of New York. Now, New Yorkers are due for same sight that thrilled the President, as nation's multi-million-dollar men of war maneuver through harbor waters and head for anchor in the Hudson River. The light held aloft by Miss Liberty still shines brightly, part thanks to these ships and sailing men. There's high time in the harbor, but there's going to be a higher time in Manhattan tonight. And nearly 35,000 Navy men do Manhattan as it's never been done before. There was a big time in the big town when the fleet came in 1934. And less than 10 years later, an even bigger Navy sailed out to fight and win a war.
Education and higher pants. It's spring of 1930, and at Hanover, New Hampshire, students of Dartmouth, but who else, shamelessly reveal what the well-dressed student wears. There's not a Miss America in the crowd, or for that matter, no Mr. America either. While these bookish boys put their noses to the grindstone, they leave their knees to the breeze. Yes, they're all dressed up, some of them, except they look as if they've forgotten their trousers. Oh, well, boys will be boys, and at Dartmouth in 1930, they did what they could to look like them, too.
It's 26th of February, 1928, and at mouth of Moffat Tunnel, Colorado's Governor Adams and ex-Governor Shoup drive last spike in railroad tracks that will go under Rocky Mountains. And crowd of 25,000 hears speech by Salt Lake City's Mayor Bowman as Denver and Salt Lake Railroad gets ready for initial run through Big Bore. Cut straight through towering Rockies at the Continental Divide, Moffat Tunnel is 6 miles long. These are pictures of first passenger run at completion of one of greatest engineering feats in railroad history. From here on, train snakes for 6 miles under countless tons of mountain rock. Yes, the Denver and Salt Lake Railroad now crosses the Rockies by going under them.
Leading star from Lead City, South Dakota, that is, and actor John Milgen, this is On legitimate stage, starting in 1908, Milgen made his first motion picture in 1922, a Fox film entitled Love Letters. This is how he looked in 1928.
Here's Lou Field's charming daughter, Dorothy, in the late 1920s. A well-known librettist and lyric writer, she rocketed to fame writing words for I Can't Give You Anything But Love, Baby, won a Hollywood Oscar for writing The Way You Look Tonight.
Here are the brothers Musial in 1923. Though needing no introduction to baseball's fans and pitchers, they're Emil of the Giants and Bob of the New York Yankees. While brothers under the uniform, they were rivals in World Series games of 1921, 2, and 3. Miles outside of Camden, New Jersey, Atlantic City flyer Nellie Bly has suffered the effects of too much speed. It's April 8, 1926, and 3 persons are dead in the wreckage. Here's front car, where 1 passenger was killed. Some authorities say Nellie Bly was tossed to destruction by split rail, but passengers claim that train was going too fast to make turns. True cause of accident will never be known, because in half-buried engine of flyer, both engineer and fireman were scalded to death by escaping steam. It's a bad accident, all right, but with 9-car pleasure train jammed with passengers, it could have been worse.
A Gish girl dances. Last week, East Lynne. This week, the Wiggles. For believe it or not, here's one of the famous acting Gish girls stomping at the footlights. Whether it's Dorothy or Lillian, nobody knows. So take your pick and take a look at a Gish who dishes out a dilly of a dance. It's 1920, and if you think this performance deserves catcalls, you're wrong. It's curtain calls for the dramatic actress turned dancer. You think that's the last one? Well, guess again. Or maybe that should be Gish again. Or maybe Miss Gish is caught on the curtain. No, she doesn't rise and fall with the curtain every time. As an actress, the darling of the footlights never had so many ups and downs as this. Well, that's all. Now, here we go again. Sorry, folks, but no more. The curtain is worn out. British honor Bleriot. It's 21st of July, 1929, and here's plane in which Louis Bleriot crossed English Channel way back in 1909. Now, at Dover, England, 20 years later, Bleriot and wife are guests of honor at a ceremony to pay homage to the famed French flyer and pioneer of the air. Bleriot's daring flight in 1909 thrilled a world amazed by flying machines. Dover's Lord Mayor keynotes the occasion and recalls flight which made front-page news around the world. Here's Louis Bleriot. And here he is at spot where his trailblazing flight was ended.
Pity the suffering woman before the glorious days of woman's suffrage. It's 1919, and here's what the well-dressed woman of the day was forced to wear. She must have been forced to wear it, because she certainly didn't look this way and like it. There's slight influence of late Tsarist Russia in this high-collared fur called a coat. Note that it buttons up the side. And here's a 1919 nifty with a flurry that isn't furry. Now take a look at all of them and be glad that this isn't 1918 and that you'll have this to look forward to next year.
It's 1921, and among spectators at French bike race is famed boxer Georges Carpentier. Same year he lost to Jack Dempsey. Race is between 200 French flyers of World War I. And watching contest with Carpentier is Mademoiselle Mistinguett, another big name of the time. Race is over historic Grand Prix course at Longchamps. And how's this fella doing? Well, he'll see the race from the rear. Marvelous Marvin Nelson. It's 30th of August, 1933. And among those favored to win Canadian National Marathon Swim are George Young, twice a world's champion, George Blagden, last year's winner, and Marvin Nelson of Fort Dodge, Iowa. And they're off on a 15-mile grind through warm waters of Lake Ontario with $5,000 in cold cash waiting for the winner. Early in race, it's clear that swim will be contest between George Young and Marvin Nelson. And here's how athletes refuel along the watery course. Not in the lead, but still not out of the swim, here's defending champion George Blagden moving along. But far ahead of his 99 rivals is Marvin Nelson. And here he is crossing the finishing line. Once a victim of polio, Nelson's a picture of health, and not even too winded to climb out of water by himself to put on Crown of Victory for Canadian Swim of 1933 and collect his $5,000.